6, around that area, where Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala talks about Hajj and some of the rulings of Hajj. So inshallah, the next big occasion in the calendar is the Hajj. So maybe it'll inspire someone to go who wasn't otherwise planning on going. Firstly, where the verses sit in Surah Al-Baqarah is interesting in itself, because the surah starts off a large portion of the early surah is a dialogue with Bani Israel, and it addresses some of the history, it addresses some of the theological issues. And then at this point, from there, it starts talking about the Muslim community and saying, okay, what does the Muslim community comprise of? And it talks as part of that about some of the beliefs and rituals of the Muslim community. So just before these verses are the famous ones that you probably heard many times over Ramadan, كُتِبَ عَلَيْكُمُ الصِّيَامُ كَمَا كُتِبَ عَلَى الَّذِينَ مِن قَبْلِكُمْ. Fasting has been prescribed upon you, as prescribed upon those before you. And then it talks here a lot about infaq, spending in the way of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and giving charity. And then it talks about Hajj here. And that's connected because the Hajj is a unique worship in terms of, if you look at the Salah, is a physical worship, Ramadan is a physical worship, Zakat is a purely financial worship, and the Hajj is a culmination of the two in terms of it costs money, and it always has done for travel and have the expenditure for your family while you're away on Hajj, and for your own provisions on Hajj, and then obviously the physical endeavor of performing all the rituals as well. So the verses start, أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم وأتموا الحج والعمرة لله, and it says, fulfill the pilgrimage and the visitation of the Umrah unto God. And Atimmu means like to perfect it, so do it properly, do it with all the obligation, obligatory elements, with the wajib elements, with the sunnah, the recommended acts. So it says, perform the Hajj in a complete and perfect manner, and the Umrah. The Arabic translation, he translates it as a visitation, which might sound like a strange translation, but if you look at the root word of Umrah, Amara, one of its meanings is to visit, and it also means to populate an area. So from that, when you populate an area, it has that meaning, and that's why in modern Arabic, an imara is a building, right? Because it's part of populating and occupying a building. And it also means like to cultivate. So if you look at the root of that, the root meaning and its association with ibadah and act of worship is that the Umrah cultivates love of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So it cultivates love and inspires love in the heart of a person, hence why it's extracted from that root. Then he says, فَإِنْ أُحْسِرْتُمْ فَمَا اسْتَيْسَرَ مِنَ الْهَدِيِ. Then the Quran goes into the rulings of what person is called as muhsir. If you any of you ever read a book of fiqh, towards the back end of the Kitab al-Hajj, it says Bab al-Ihsar, the one who becomes restricted or prevented from fulfilling the Umrah. And so it's interesting how the Quran, you heard on Eid, was talking about the day of resurrection and talking about Iman and all of those big realities. But at the same time, it talks about, well, what do you do if you put a ihram on and you're ready to do Umrah or you're ready to do Hajj, and then something prevents you from going in? In the olden days, it would normally be like security of route. You can't get there, you can't access the Hajj, the pathways will become dangerous or whatever. In modern days, it might be, border control say around, and you can't go. So this is what we call muhsir in fiqh, and this is what the Quran says now. فَإِنْ أُحْسِرْتُمْ, if you are prevented, then it says, فَمَا اسْتَيْسَرَ مِنَ الْهَدِيِ, then do what is easy or feasible for you from Hadi means the ritual sacrifice. Because if you think about it normally, when you're on Hajj, when you're coming out of the Ihram, those of you being on Hajj, you will know what you do is you do the Hadi, you do the ritual sacrifice within the Haram. So at that time, you do the ritual sacrifice within, it has to be within the Haram, and then you shave your head. And he said, remember, you get a phone call from the guy who's your tour operator, and he says, look, your ritual sacrifice is done now. Go shave your head now. So that's what a normal person does. So here it's stipulated for you what does a person do who becomes a muhsin. So, and he says, so what you do is you basically send forward your animals and make sure your sacrifice, ritual sacrifice, is done for you in the haram. And then, as a muhsin, wherever you are, even though you're outside the haram perhaps, you can shave your head and you become outside of the haram, you exit the state of the haram. And this is what these verses are saying to you here. And as you know, it says for Mastaysara, so what's feasible, right? So the Fuqaha said the offering or the Qurbani could be from a camel, a cow, or a sheep, or something of that nature. Then it says, okay, and it says, وَلَا تُحْلِقُوا رُؤُوسَكُمْ حَتَّى يَبْلُغَ الْهَدْيُ مَحِلًّا. And he says, don't shave your head until the ritual sacrifice has reached the Masjid al-Haram. So in the same way that the normal person on Hajj has an order, sacrifice, head shaving, even if you're Muhsir, you have to observe the same procedure and the same tartib. Then he says, فَمَنْ كَانَ مِنْكُمْ مَرِيدًا أَوْ بِهِ أَذًى مِنْ رَأْسِهِ فَفِدْيَةٌ مِنْ صِيَامٍ أَوْ صَدَقَةٍ أَوْ نُسُكٍ. He said, whoever of you has basically an illness, or so if you are illness or you're sick, or you've got an injury to the head, and then you are forced to shave your head before your sacrifice reaches the haram, what do you do? Okay? So again, it's quite interesting that such a minor detail is it doesn't just say, look, if you become Muslim, this is what you need to do. It says, if you become Muslim, do this. But if you can't do that and you've got an illness and it means you have to shave your head before your animals reach the haram, what do you do? And then it answers that, and he says, if any of you is sick or injured in his head, so for example, you've got lice, right, and you've got a problem now, they're irritating you, whatever, you need to shave your head to fix the problem. Then it says, then you do fidya, which is a redemption payment, by fasting or by making a sacrifice, or you're giving some type of sadaqah. And then the Quran took from that, they said, okay, if you can't do what does that mean? It said you have to fast for 3 days, or you make a charitable payment of about 1.6 kilos of wheat to 6 needy people independently, or you can slaughter a sheep, and that would be your expiation that allows you to shave your head before perform the ritual sacrifice. A bit technical, but Allah put it in the Quran, so we have to spend a little bit of effort and a bit of time thinking about it and saying, what does this actually mean? Then he says, فَإِذَا آمِنْتُمْ فَمَنْ تَمَتَّعَ بِالْعُمْرَةِ إِلَى الْحَجِّ فَمَا اسْتَيْسَرَ مِنَ الْهَدِيِّ. Then it goes on to another issue. It says, when you are secure, i.e. the thing that prevented you from going to Makkah and made you Muslim, once that preventative reason disappears, then what? He says, whoever enjoys the visitation until the pilgrimage, let his offering be such as may be feasible. To put it in a more simple language, the Quraysh at that time, remember Hajj and Umrah were sacrifices that the Arabs were doing before Islam. And the point of putting this in the Quran is to say, you used to do it in this way. Yes, the essence of the worship is fine, but certain rituals that you're doing and the way that you're doing it is not fine. So let's correct you. And one of the things that needed correcting was the Quraysh. When you go on Umrah, you do the when you go on Hajj, you do what you call the tamattu method. The Quraysh believed tamattu wasn't valid. So Allah's correcting them now here in this verse and says, you can't do tamattu. What does tamattu mean? Tamattu means that when you enjoy something, when it becomes a bit easier. When all of you, when you go from Hajj here, you can put your ihram on in the first journey, and then you go and do your Umrah, you shave your head, and then you relax for a few days, right? Then on the 8th, you put your ihram on to get ready for Hajj. So in that middle period, you've got ease, right? You've got 3-4 days, whatever your journey is, between your Umrah and your Hajj, you can enjoy yourselves, you can relax. That's why it's called tamattu, because you're enjoying that relaxing period. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is saying, look, the tamattu method, again, interesting mention in the Quran itself, this is a valid method. So you can perform the Hajj in that method. But it's put a condition in there for it, right? It says, فَمَسْتَيْسَرَ مِنَ الْهَدِي, that you can enjoy the tamattu, but you have to do a ritual sacrificing for that in exchange. This is a wajib element. So it's a wajib element, it has to be done. And the sacrifice is a sheep, or it's a 7th share in a cow or a camel. But again, just look at the Quran and the mercy of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. First is giving you, says, go do tamattu, make it easy for yourself. Okay, go and we'll give you the easy option. Then it says, okay, what if you can't do that? Right? What if you've got no money? What if animals are not available? It gives you another solution. It says, فَمَنْ لَمْ يَجِدْ فَصِيَامُ ثَلَاثَةِ أَيَّامٍ فِي الْحَجِّ وَسَبْعَةٍ إِذَا رَجَعْتُمْ تِلْكَ عَشَرَةٌ كَامِلَةٌ ذَلِكَ. Okay. He said, whoever does not find an animal, so they let him fast 3 days. 3 days in the Hajj, and it says 7 days when you come back home. He says, and then in total, that is 10 days. So if you do the tamattu method, you can't find an animal, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, He gives you this alternative. And then it says, the verse continues, ذَلِكَ لِمَنْ لَمْ يَكُنْ أَهْلُهُ حَاضِرِي الْمَسْجِدِ الْحَرَامِ. The tamattu method is for those people whose family are not in Makkah, i.e. they're not residents of Makkah. So the Makkans, they can't do the tamattu method. This is a specific dispensation for the people who are outside Makkah. Then it says, وَاتَّقُوا اللَّهَ وَاعْلَمُوا أَنَّ اللَّهَ شَدِيدُ الْعِقَابِ, and fear Allah and know that Allah is very severe in retribution or punishment. Then he says, Al-Hajj Ashhurun Ma'lumat. The pilgrimage is in the months which are well known. So it was already known to the Arabs. Shawwal, Dhul Qa'dah, and the first 10 days of Dhul Hijjah. These are the months of Hajj. You must perform the ritual sacrifice, so you must perform your rituals within those months. Although if you make the ihram before that, then the fuqaha have different opinions about the permissibility of this. And as an interesting aside, the Hajj was made obligatory in the 9th year of Hijrah, and the Prophet ﷺ, he performed it in the 10th year, and he performed Umrah four times after his the Hijrah to Medina, always in the month of Dhul Qa'dah, in the years 6, 7, 8, and 10 of the
says, فَمَنْ فَرَضَ فِيهِنَّ الْحَجَّ فَلَا رَفَثَ وَلَا فُسُوقَ وَلَا جِدَالَ فِي الْحَجِّ. And said, those who then take the journey of Hajj, is saying, remember there's no rafath, is like engagement with your husband or wife, or it can be lewd talk, so there's no lewdness. And then he says, there's no rafath, which is basically ungodliness or sin. So there's no sinning, and there's no disputation. And of course, these last two, fasuk and jidal, transgression and disputation, they're haram, also they're forbidden outside of the months of Ramadan, of Hajj as well. But the same for the Haji is especially strong command for him not to do that. So double down for him not to engage in that. And those who have been on Hajj, you think disputation, like why would you go to Hajj and dispute? Well, you don't know that pressure, and you'll see some disputation for sure. So that's what the Quran is making it clear at the front to you that don't do this. Then he says, وَتَزَوَّدُوا فَإِنَّ خَيْرَ الزَّادِ التَّقْوَى. And take provisions, and the best of provisions is God-fearingness. So when you go on Hajj, you're saying, look, take provisions with you. Especially in those times, right? Imagine if you're going on camel, it's a long journey, so you have to prepare properly for the journey, make sure you get there, and make sure you have the provisions to go there. So it's saying to you, take the provisions, but the best of provisions is God-fearingness. And the commentators say, like, the journey of life is like that as well. That the journey of life means that you have to make physical provisions and material provisions. But the best of provisions for your journey of this life is God-fearingness itself. Then the verse ends, وَاتَّقُونِي يَا أُولِي الْأَلْبَابِ. So fear me, men possessed of minds. So if you got, Allah is saying, if you got intellect, then fear me. Why? Because if you have intellect, you know fearing Allah is for your own good. Because it means you'll get good in the world to come, inshallah. I thought we were going to get through more, but we didn't. So, inshallah, next time we can pick it up out from there and just continue the description of the Hajj journey as explained in the Quran. So, pray your sunnahs, and then we'll have the rest of the Quran, inshallah.
الله أكبر الله أكبر الله أكبر الله أكبر أشهد أن لا إله إلا الله أشهد أن لا إله إلا الله أشهد أن محمدا رسول الله أشهد أن محمدا رسول الله حي على الصلاة حي على الصلاة حي على الفلاح حي على الفلاح الله أكبر الله أكبر لا إله إلا الله
الحمد لله رب العالمين، لك الحمد يا ربنا حتى ترضى، ولك الحمد بعد الرضا، ولك الحمد إذا رضيت. ونشهد أن لا إله إلا الله وحده لا شريك له، بيده مقاليد السماوات والأرض، يحيي ويميت وهو على كل شيء قدير. ونشهد أن سيدنا وحبيبنا وعظيمنا وأستاذنا ومخرجنا من الظلمات إلى النور سيدنا محمد بلغ الرسالة وأدى الأمانة ونصح الأمة وجاهد في الله حق جهاده، فصلاة وسلاما عليك يا سيدي يا رسول الله. أما بعد، إخوة الإيمان والإسلام، لقد انتهى رمضان، لكن لم تنتهي الصلاة، لم تنتهي الزكاة، لم تنتهي الصدقة. لقد انتهى رمضان ولكن لم تنتهي عبادة الله، فعبادة الله في العام كله وليس في رمضان فقط. فكن عبدا لله ربانيا ولا تكن عبدا رمضانيا. فلقد قيل لبشر الحافي: إن قوما يجتهدون ويتعبدون الله وحده في رمضان، فقال: بئس القوم قوم لا يعرفون الله إلا في رمضان. فكن عبدا لله ربانيا ولا تكن عبدا رمضانيا، لأن رب رمضان هو رب غير رمضان. والله تعالى يقول في كتابه الكريم وهو أصدق القائلين: واعبد ربك حتى يأتيك اليقين، أي واعبد ربك حتى يأتيك الموت. فمن كان يعبد الله في رمضان لأجل رمضان فإن رمضان قد انتهى، ومن كان يعبد الله في رمضان فإن الله حي لا ينتهي. وعلينا إخوة الإيمان والإسلام أن نتذلل في هذه الأيام، وأن نتضرع بالدعاء لأهلنا في فلسطين وفي غزة، فيا من لا يخلف وعده ولا إله غيره. نسأل الله العلي العظيم أن يكون لهم عونا وسندا، وأن ينصرهم على من نصرهم. اللهم تقبل شهداءهم وداوي جرحاهم في هذه الأيام المباركة. داوي جرحاهم وتقبل شهداءهم وأطعم جائعهم واشكر كسرهم. آمين آمين يا رب العالمين. ويقول المصطفى صلى الله عليه وسلم: التائب حبيب الرحمن، والتائب من الذنب كمن لا ذنب له، أو كما قال: ادعوا الله وأنتم موقنون بالإجابة. الحمد لله رب العالمين، والصلاة والسلام على المبعوث رحمة للعالمين سيدنا محمد صلى الله عليه وعلى آله وصحبه أجمعين. إن الله وملائكته يصلون على النبي يا أيها الذين آمنوا صلوا عليه وسلموا تسليما. اللهم صلاة وسلاما عليك يا سيدي يا أبا القاسم يا رسول الله. وارض اللهم عن الأربعة الخلفاء الراشدين أبي بكر وعمر وعثمان وعلي، وعن الصحابة أجمعين، وعن التابعين وتابع التابعين ومن تبعهم بإحسان إلى يوم الدين. اللهم أعز الإسلام والمسلمين، وأعلن بفضلك كلمتي الحق والدين، واجعل الدائرة على أعدائك أعداء الدين. اللهم اغفر للمسلمين والمسلمات والمؤمنين والمؤمنات الأحياء منهم والأموات، إنك يا ربنا سميع قريب مجيب الدعوات مولانا رب العالمين. عباد الله، إن الله يأمر بالعدل والإحسان وإيتاء ذي القربى وينهى عن الفحشاء والمنكر والبغي، يعظكم لعلكم تذكرون. اذكروا الله العظيم يذكركم، واستغفروه يغفر لكم، واشكروه يزدكم. قوموا إلى صلاتكم يرحمني ويرحمكم الله.
الله أكبر الله أكبر الله أكبر الله أكبر. أشهد أن لا إله إلا الله أشهد أن لا إله إلا الله أشهد أن محمدا رسول الله أشهد أن محمدا رسول الله. حي على الصلاة حي على الصلاة حي على الفلاح حي على الفلاح. قد قامت الصلاة قد قامت الصلاة. الله أكبر الله أكبر. لا إله إلا الله.
الله الحمد لله رب العالمين، الرحمن الرحيم، مالك يوم الدين، إياك نعبد وإياك نستعين، اهدنا الصراط المستقيم، صراط الذين أنعمت عليهم غير المغضوب عليهم ولا الضالين. الحج أشهر معلومات، فمن فرض فيهن الحج فلا رفث ولا فسوق ولا جدال في الحج، وما تفعلوا من خير يعلمه الله، وتزودوا فإن خير الزاد التقوى، واتقون يا أولي الألباب. ليس عليكم جناح أن تبتغوا فضلا من ربكم، فإذا أفضتم من عرفات فاذكروا الله عند المشعر الحرام، واذكروه كما هداكم وإن كنتم من قبله لمن الضالين. ثم أفيضوا من حيث أفاض الناس واستغفروا الله، إن الله غفور رحيم. الله سمع الله لمن حمده. الله 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 أكبر. الحمد لله رب العالمين، الرحمن الرحيم، مالك يوم الدين، حسنة وفي الآخرة حسنة وقنا عذاب النار أولئك لهم نصيب مما كسبوا والله سريع الحساب الله سمع الله لمن حمده الله 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 السلام عليكم ورحمة الله السلام عليكم ورحمة الله لا سيدنا محمد رسول الله صلى الله عليه وسلم